everybody. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar. My name is Melissa, and I am one of the member advocates here at Inspire Care 360. And today we will be discussing a very exciting and interesting topic, which is utilizing AI or artificial intelligence tools to enhance office efficiency and profitability for your childcare business. Before we get started, I would like if everyone could introduce yourself by your name and the state that you are joining from in the chat. Hi, Rosa. How's it going? Yes, Miss Rosa is from Florida. We have Danielle from Florida as well. Jen from Texas. I am in Texas as well. It is very hot today. It will be very hot for the foreseeable future. Sarah is from Asheville, North Carolina. We have Allie from New Jersey. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Ooh, from Canada. Lisa from Illinois. Bob from Georgia. Yes, thank you everyone for joining us. So like I said, my name is Melissa Kelly. I am one of the member advocates here at ECE 360. That is my email down below if you would like to find out any more information about these tools or have any questions. Feel free to reach out to me. Sarah just put my email in the chat for us. So I know many of us have probably varying levels of familiarity with AI, as well as how we can utilize them to simplify our business operations. So if you guys want to let us know approximately what your familiarity level with AI is, so whether you are an expert user, moderately familiar, vaguely familiar, or if you have never used it before. Awesome. If you could put those answers in the chat, and then once we actually start the webinar, if you have any questions, there is a Q&A box down there next to the chat, so you can put all of your questions during the webinar for Tony in the Q&A box. Okay, so we have some people who are moderately familiar, very familiar, and never used it before. Okay, so we are going to welcome shortly our host, which is Tony, our CEO and founder. We'll go through some housekeeping options, which are our ECE Healthy Advantage benefits, as well as discuss a little bit about our group purchasing savings program. And then we will introduce you to our ECE CEO biography podcast, which we are working on. Then we'll dive into our discussion on AI, and then make sure to stay till the very end because we do have a giveaway for our people who stay through all the way to the end. And then we'll talk a little bit more about ECE 360. Don't forget, if you are seeking a continuing education unit certificate, you will have to use that link to receive your webinar certificate. Sarah will put that in the chat for us. So make sure that you click that link so that you can receive your certificate. Okay, so it is my pleasure to introduce you to Tony D'Agostino. He is our founder and CEO of Inspire Care 360. And additionally, he owns and operates, I believe, 4 ECE schools in Western New York. So that slide is incorrect. But of course, he has 30 plus years of experience, and he founded this company to seek and solve back office talent issues that we are challenged with.
Hey, welcome. Thank you very much, Melissa. I really appreciate the introduction and handing off the baton to me. That's wonderful. And Melissa has just been with us for a couple months and several months, and it feels like a couple of years because she has so much become such a huge asset to our members. As a member advocate, it's her role to really work with everybody who becomes a member. You know, again, one of the biggest differences I think between us and many different other platforms, software companies is a lot of times you struggle to find support. We actually call you. We'll call you every single month. We will reach out to you. We will be looking to make sure you're taking full advantage of our solutions and the like. And Melissa's one of those people. We're very proud to have her. So welcome everybody to our little humble abode today and our presentation on AI, which we're going to get to in a second. I am going to do a few housekeeping items. And as some of you have maybe seen in the past, when we look at really the fact of benefits and why healthcare benefits are so important. I think we all know we all seek some level of healthcare benefits. Our industry is wrought with the challenge of having low wages, and because of that, it leaves very little dollars in our staff's pockets to pay for benefits, especially when you have huge premium costs and you have very large deductibles. So we went to the mat a few years ago to really find out if there was a solution that we could develop, and we did exactly that. We developed a solution that is highly affordable and highly flexible for staff to be able to use, and it's called Healthy Advantage in the upper right-hand corner there. In there, there are 5 healthcare benefit options, and then we have 6 supplemental care options too. The healthcare benefit options meet the Affordable Care Act too. So the thing that's really interesting about this solution being so inexpensive, quite oftentimes you're like, how do we do it? Well, it's basically like a deconstructed major medical plan. In other words, when you pay for major medical, you're paying for all possibilities that things could possibly go wrong under every situation. And that means that they have to have a lot of money coming in for that care, that issue that might happen. However, most people in our staffing industry are relatively young and they're relatively healthy. Most of our staff are between the ages, once they come off their parents at 26 to the age of 40 on average. There's some above and there's some below for sure. But having the ability to visit a doctor's office or a specialist for only $15 and $50 urgent care with very low premiums, no high premiums and no deductibles in this program are simply amazing. And the owner pays a premium of only $50 per person up to the first 10 individuals, and then it drops down to $25 per person for each individual after that. It includes telemedicine in each one of the levels of those programs. So that means not only does the staff member have access to doctors that are $15 offices, specialists, and what have you in the other services, but there's no cost for using the telemedicine at all for them if they've invested in this. We also have a separate telemedicine program too for those who might be interested, but this includes telemedicine in it. It does meet, as we mentioned, the Affordable Care Act, which is a requirement from the federal government that if you have 50 employees or what are called FTEs, full-time equivalents, a year or more, whether you have just one location, multi-locations, or even multiple businesses, even outside of childcare, this meets that requirement for the Affordable Care Act. And this comes with full benefit administration. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means that typically if you were to do healthcare benefits yourself, you'd work with a local broker. That local broker would give you all the information, then you would have to roll it up, you would have to ask the questions, get people signed up and onboarded, and then set up everything to get payroll done. We actually do all that work for you as part of Healthy Advantage. So if you're interested in Healthy Advantage and doing the payroll administration, as you see, Sarah will put a link into chat and you can learn a little bit more. And if it's something that is of interest for you, it takes about a month and a half to get started. So especially if you're going, well, you know, we really want to do our things in the fall, now is absolutely the perfect time to start those conversations. Let's go on to something we haven't talked about in a good while, and that is our group savings program or group purchasing option. What that is anybody who becomes a member of Inspire Care 360 becomes part of a very powerful group purchasing organization. This means that when you're looking to obtain supplies like most of us do, when you think about it, childcare schools quite oftentimes are the volume and size of what a local restaurant would do for breakfasts, for afternoon snacks, and or for breakfast, for lunches, and afternoon snacks, oftentimes providing hot meals. There's a few schools out there that brown bag. The majority of them cook, and a few of them cater. But if you are buying your own supplies, whether it be for food, like with providers like US Foods or Cisco, all of us need office supplies. And quite oftentimes people go to Amazon for their office supplies. The problem is they go there once, they might get a deal, they come back, and then they're actually paying more than they did the first time. Here we have consistent discounts with the likes of WB Masons and Staples. We've also negotiated with the food, as I was mentioning, upwards of 30 to 50% discount on foods, which is a huge number on our P&L. And then you have things such as our relationships with other providers in the industry, from Discount School Supply, Becker's, Constructive Playthings. We have a bunch of other providers who are also coming online. And then in addition to that, we have providers like Verizon and AT&T and Hertz Rental Cars and the like, where we're having discounts on average upwards of 20%. You see Tammy Anderson right here with what they were able to do. They're saving over $1,000 a month as just being part of our membership. That is simply just the gravy on top. And that is for all of our members who join us as they are a member. And quite oftentimes it's paid 100% of the membership. If you'd like to learn more, just put a quick chat in there to Melissa and say, I'd love to learn more about the GPO. Could you reach out to me? That's all we need to know, and we will get on that with you. Something else that we are in the process and have just launched this past month, we're very proud of this. This is our ECE CEO biography. This is sort of taking our industry by storm a little bit. It is a new podcast. You can find it on all the popular podcast channels, such as Spotify or iHeartRadio or Apple Podcast or Audible. And Google, I think, is doing away with theirs, but all the popular podcast channels, it is out there. This is really talking to different leaders and CEOs across our early care and education marketplace. They are very insightful conversations. I believe I actually just finished doing another one today with Ivy League kids and Joe Evans, which will be coming up. We have just released the first one with Gigi Schweiker with Lightbridge Academy. That was just an amazing podcast. It is out there and available for you. You can also find it on our website under resources. And then there's two different podcast versions. We have Care for the Child Care Owner. And then we also have now the ECE CEO biography. So the first one released was Gigi, and it was a great hour conversation with her with a lot of insights of how she ascended into her role. Our next one coming out will be coming out in early July, and that is Chad Dunkley, with CEO of New Horizons Academy. Extremely well-respected gentleman in the industry too, just like Gigi and others, who has really fostered a very large childcare organization from a very small entity that started with his family initially. We also had conversations with Jeff Wall, Ricardo Campo, and a number of other providers that aren't on here that are all in the can and will be released. It's currently on a monthly basis. And we are looking to release these conversations over the podcast, and they will exist for your availability to have us signed up as part of your library, whether it be on your smartphone or however you listen to podcasts. And then you can listen to it at will. You can download it or what have you, so you can listen to it when you're traveling or the like. Let's get started with the rest of our meeting here today. Oh, before we do, there is a giveaway at the end. If you happen to be in our meeting at the conclusion, anybody who's remaining, we have a special giveaway, and I will give you a hint. It is from Becker's. Becker's School Supplies has given us something very special. So let's talk a little bit about AI. A couple of years ago, we heard all about blockchain and, that how it's going to revolutionize the industry, and then it tended to stall out. There was a number of different type of entities that were really supposed to come to light for the elements of blockchain, and that really did stall in our industry a bit. But AI has been around for a while, and artificial intelligence, believe it or not, has actually been in our domain probably for well over 10 years. This year, it really, in the past 20 or 12 months, I would say, it really made a bigger bang because OpenAI introduced ChatGPT. And we're going to talk about that solution as well as all the other type of solutions today. So with this said, I would like to start with an initial poll. And we're going to launch a poll. And in this poll, what I'd like you to do is you have an opportunity to answer two separate questions. The first question, which you should now have in front of you, is have you ever used any type of artificial intelligence out there? And so I'm looking for you to put in your answers there. It would help us get a good understanding of who the audience is. And then the second one is, which artificial intelligence AI programs have you used? There are a number of them out there. I just mentioned ChatGPT from OpenAI. There's Gemini, which Google originally released as Bard. That really didn't take off. Then they released Gemini, and then we found out that they renegotiated history on a bunch of things with Gemini, so that sort of created a bit of a stall. Anthropic has a very strong tool out there called Claude, and then you have a number of other solutions out there. So we're going to close the poll in just probably another 10 seconds or so. So if you could vote on it, we'll go ahead and be sure to publish those results for everybody. So let's go ahead and one more second, get a few more people to get in there, and let's end the poll. All right, and we're going to share the results with you. So what we have is probably 3/4 of our audience today have used artificial intelligence. About a quarter of our audience, well, I shouldn't say that because there's a lot more people on here than have answered the question, but in stats, about a quarter of the people who responded said no, that they haven't. And then what types of AI have they used? Well, looks like the majority has been with ChatGPT, which is very understandable. They're sort of the blazing the way as Google was for search browsers. ChatGPT is for AI for a chat model. And then Gemini, there's one individual who's used a Gemini and 3 people have used some other ones. So thank you very much for participating in that. It gives us a sense that we do have some experienced people on here, which I'm excited to have. So we're going to talk a little bit about the historical integration of technology in our marketplace first, and then we'll talk about some of the milestones and then the impact this will eventually have with AI in the childcare field. All right, so let's talk about our current technology in our field. So there's a number of different logos and brands up here that a number of you seen. This is not meant to be a catch-all, and if you are part of or use a company that's not on here, by no means do I mean any kind of offense. It was just to give you just a showcase of the different type of technology companies that are out there. We have at the top here a number of companies who focus on childcare management. Some of them came from the world of daily sheets. Some of them only do daily sheets still. Others came from the world of CRMs, and some of them still do just mainly lead generation. Then you have what a lot of us use are payroll companies. You can do payroll yourself, and you can use some of those platforms for payroll. But for the most part, a lot of the companies outsource themselves to payroll. And payroll does not only payroll these days, but they'll also do some HR stuff and offer some benefits and the like. Then there is HR and there's content management in HR, there's training and development, there's different forms, services and the like, and then there's video in the classroom. There's probably some other technologies that are available too out there in particular that can be used. But in general terms, this is where technology has been in our marketplace for a while. It has quickly evolved. When I basically came into this industry in the around 2010 or so, when I started acquiring my schools, there really was very little technology there. There was 1 or 2 providers of childcare management and maybe 1 CRM provider and very little other technology that was in the marketplace. Most people were doing things manually. But we have watched in the past couple months some exponential growth happen in technology. So let's talk a little bit about those and that information here. And why do we want to leverage technology? Well, we leverage technology because it helps you truly automate a lot of tasks. We are wrought in this industry with tasks. As we know, if we looked at our task sheets every morning, whether we are an owner, a director, teacher, bus driver, cook, we have a ton of tasks that are going on every morning. And if we could have a help with those tasks to get some of those consolidated, some of those automated, that would be amazing. And that's what we see some of these technologies are really focused on. Those other companies I just showed you are really focused on those. Cost reduction. Hopefully you're able to leverage technology to be able to do more for less, be able to accomplish more for investing less money, and then you should be able to get a return on your investment when you are implementing a technology. If you're really putting in a technology and you're not using it to its extent, you possibly might be getting some return on it for investment, but most of the technologies are put out there so you can get a large return on your investment. And quite oftentimes it means embracing and doing some of the change management to make it valuable and affordable for you folks. Communication, quite oftentimes one of our biggest challenges, implementing technology in our childcare industry. I have 4 schools today, as Melissa mentioned a little earlier. And one of my challenges is when we look to bring in technology. Now, I have some absolutely wonderful directors, regional, executive directors, and the like, and they are technology savvy too. However, the day oftentimes gets in the way. So what does that mean? Is we oftentimes use workarounds. And that is never good because you don't get your ROI out of your technology quite oftentimes. Two is you're not getting your efficiencies, you're not getting the cost savings of those. So being able to communicate what the technology is to the right people who need to use it and how to use it is critical for getting the success and leveraging the value out of it. And then technology is also to improve your accuracy as to what you do. As we know too, as basic as having a calculator. And I do remember the time when I was in school, in elementary school and in junior high, when they were like, you'll never have a calculator in your pocket wherever you go. So you're going to have to learn math tables. Well, they're wrong on that one. But I'm happy to say that it is important that you do understand the basics of most things, but technology can certainly improve your accuracy overall. So let's move forward. So let's talk a little bit about what is artificial intelligence. We've heard of the term artificial intelligence. We've heard about AI. Gosh, some of us saw the Terminator and how artificial intelligence could possibly take over if robots become sentient and all of a sudden believe that they are a living, breathing entity themselves. There could be possibilities there. I have no idea where that's going to be or going to go, but we're going to talk about what are the 4 biggest buckets of artificial technology to use today. Natural language or perception technology. This is dealing with what we call large language models. So you're going to hear some terms here. You're going to be like, okay, we're getting really technical right now. I hope this presentation doesn't stay there. It won't. I promise you. The presentation is going to be about some of the information that just starts to help you think about why the technology is set up the way it is and how to leverage it. Large language models is basically an educated database that really gets into a comprehensive database of all information and accessibility underneath that. So when you look at what ChatGPT is, or how ChatGPT works by the company OpenAI, they're using what's called a large language model. The AIs that I mentioned to you early on, from Gemini to Claude through Anthropic and other ones out there are large language models, okay? They do deep system data training, so that means that they are always looking to analyze and process data to understand what it means and how it applies. They do generative human language. So what that means is it can produce the equivalency or something similar to human language. They can do speech recognition, text analysis. And to give you examples of that, you see at the very bottom, this is like your Google Assistant, your Siri, or your Alexa. Those are natural language and perception technology engines that are running those. Then there's rule-based systems. This is the ones that mimic a human experience, okay? They're domain-specific knowledge. So in other words, they typically get to know an industry knowledge more, or a technical knowledge more than average. So they really get very specific in their domain knowledge. And it has a lot of rules-based decision, if then situations. If this, then this. If this, then this kind of thing. But it's relatively easy to navigate. Some of these AI solutions you'll see coming about oftentimes start to use more of a blend of these, but American Express currently uses rule-based for fraud. So if you get something that pops up on your smartphone saying a fraud detected from your credit card company, that something happened, this is actually not a person who is evaluating your credit line. This is actually AI applied to your credit line, to credit patterns, to how you spend, how you have spent in the past, what you're currently doing, and then it looks and it statistically goes, okay, this is on the fringe. We're going to ask, did this actually happen? If it's something that's way out of line, for instance, you just made a purchase and you were in Georgia, and then the next purchase happens and it happens to be in Thailand, it's going to possibly cut off your card and just simply say, we need to talk to someone that you can't really be in those two places at once if they were physically presented cards. So that is what AI is using, for instance, for American Express for fraud detection to save the industry millions of dollars. Then you have machine learning or neural networks. And neural networks is oftentimes used within the terms of AI. This is really looking at statistical models. This is looking at all the data and really crunching a lot of data to say, again, a little bit more of those if-then situations. When you think of neural networks and neural models, this is really about sort of almost like a thinking process of how AI starts to think. It starts to recognize patterns. It does learn from its interactions. So as you interact with it, what you do, how you interact with it, not only does it read patterns, but it starts to see how you interact, and in turn, it starts to educate itself. So it starts to self-educate rapidly. And this is what sometimes the concern on AI is that if you let AI start to self-learn, it can, it never shuts off. It doesn't sleep. It can just exponentially learn and learn very, very quick. So there's opportunities for it to do. And this is where they're starting to apply that into robotics because of the self-learning. And again, robotics is not just like an android that you may have that would be walking around your house and cleaning up for you, but it could be like the robotics, again, that they use in manufacturing, or the kind of tools that they're starting to invent for the simple everyday use. Netflix uses this for your content recommendations today. They're using a neural network and they're doing machine learning. Every time you go into Netflix or Prime or whatever you're learning from your streaming or going into your streaming, when you look at the amount of time you spend in a show, a movie, a series, what you look up, what you download, all those things are all crunched to make recommendations for you and to also let you know what are things that you probably would spend more time with, if not, and make different plans for what you would want. So for instance, if you like more high definition shows, it's going to recommend you to upgrade their services. And then you have advanced modeling and simulations. That is reinforcement that really comes from decision making and trial and error and getting very generative for image, video, and digital. This has been around for a little bit. This is exactly what Tesla uses when it's driving one of its vehicles for autopiloting. Tesla now has managed to do things such as if you're driving down and they see a child who's on one side of a car and then the child disappears, it is using its advanced simulations to recognize what are all the options that that child might be popping out of in front of that parked car into your lane. So it is thinking in that way, and it's really modeling everything around you. So that is to give you an overview of artificial intelligence. So, when it really comes to what we are doing today, we want to take a look at how does AI, can it help us? But also, where should we be cautious about AI, especially in the childcare field? So let's move forward and just talk about some of the different statistics that we have out there. When you look at this, 40% of admins struggle with tasks in administration today. We're not very surprised about that. AI is starting to actually be used at airports. You see it now where you're pulling up and you get a photo taken of your face. That's actually AI in work where it's doing recognition automatically, which has created a 70% more accuracy on check-ins as to the time it takes for a security guard at TSA to hold up and look at and verify who you are. It is way more accurate and it speeds up the process. So using AI can be a significant time saver. And by the end of 2025, there's a belief that the increased use in business of AI will be about 36%, but over a third of every task that are done are going to have AI applied to it. If you look at 77% of families prefer ECE using technology, those stats came from within our industry. And those are really saying that within our world, you are seeing that families, being mostly millennial and Gen Zers now, have grown up on technology. These are folks who grew up with an iPad in their hands. These are folks who are so used to technology that it is a bit of a loss if they don't have access to it. And it's a bit of they're befuddled that if you're having things done manually, if you're sending manual daily sheets home, it might be nostalgic and it might be something that you as an owner feel comfortable with, not a problem. But you should understand your families are looking for how can I quickly get information to process information? And that's what they are seeking is the ability to leverage technology in all parts of their life to simplify their world. So it also can increase productivity for teachers. And we'll talk a little bit later about the value of that, but also the cautionary tales associated with that too. So today, 50% of all searching is actually done on voice searching or image searching, believe it or not. Instead of just typing it into a system, people are using voice commands now. As we know on our phones, we do it most of the time with voice commands. And if you see my voice to text messages to you, I apologize greatly in advance because they're absolutely horrible half the time. So my team knows that, and they're probably all doing thumbs up, Tony, please stop. So with that said, in 2025, 60% of classroom support will be achievable by AI. So what does that mean? That means that when it comes to things like supporting activities, supporting themes, supporting stations, there will be AI solutions out there, and we'll review one or two of those. So let's move forward with the time we have. The direction of AI for ECE and business emerging where the possible impact is. So let's go over a few of the bigger ones today. You have, for instance, the chat searches and retrievals. Up here, you will see a QR code. This QR code will give you access that if you want a copy of these technologies that I'm going to show to you today, you can shoot that QR code and that'll give us a sheet to say, hey, send all the technologies you talked about today. I'd love to learn about those. So if you want to shoot that QR code, you can. ChatGPT, again, is an LLM. It is the big one, the 800-pound gorilla. It is predominantly owned by Microsoft, even though it's an independent company. And it is bouncing back and forth of whether it's looking at the internet on any given day and has image engines and the like. Perplexity is not its own LLM, but it leverages two different ones. It's become very popular and it is open access to the internet. So it's always working within the internet. What's the difference? You can say with Perplexity, go to this website and give me a summary of everything this company does. And Perplexity will give you a complete summary of exactly what that company offers instead of you having to go through all the web pages. ChatGPT might have to look at a previous version of that web page or whatever may have been stored where Perplexity is looking at that given day. Also attached to the internet too, and there's is elements of like Claude, and Claude is from Anthropic. It is very ethically focused. So what does that mean? Ethically focused is a double-edged sword in my understanding. It is sort of saying, uh, there are times where things like ChatGPT might answer whatever the question is. But if you were to say I'd like to learn how to build a pipe bomb, Claude is not going to answer that. That's going to be against its ethics, its terms and conditions. So it has gone through, and there's certain things that it has decided that it's going to eliminate from answering to keep it a more safer environment, to be more of a friendly type of environment for using AI, where ChatGPT may be a little bit more open in that sense. Gemini, as we talked about too, is another one that came out of Google. They've really had some challenges with it. Some of it you see automatically answering on your iOS or your Apple phone or your Android phone. You'll see that it looks like it's generating when you ask a question to Google, it'll generate an answer. That's using Gemini right there. And it has been unfortunately known to have very biased data and biased content. Part of that is the kind of data that it's researching from. So if it looks at how the data has been categorized in your Google search, which has been known to be considered pretty biased, it will produce that through Gemini. So the tool itself really isn't biased. It's the data that it looks to. So those are a few examples there. Now, what I'd like to do quickly for you is I'm going to just give you an example of how you can actually use some of these tools effectively. And so one of the things I'd like to present you with is a model called RISE. And in the RISE model, especially when you're using tools like most people said in their poll, is that they've used ChatGPT. I would like you to consider that the whole idea are what we call prompts. Prompts are how do you ask a proper question to get the very best answer. So the way that you ask the question is the way you can get a good answer. Sometimes you just ask a general question, you get a general answer. So if you use a prompt, and these prompts in this model here called RISEs, role. You want to tell the system what role it should be playing. Could you act like a seamstress? Could you act like a plumber? Could you act like so-and-so? And then the instructions. What we like you to do is I'd like to find out how to create this, or this. I'd like to learn how to make chicken parmesan when I don't have breadcrumbs. Okay, whatever it might be, you're giving it instructions. And then you're providing it with steps. Could you please offer this to me in the process of bullet points? Could you give it to me in paragraphs? Any kind of steps that you want. And then what is your goal? Well, at the end of the day, I want to make chicken parmesan for dinner tonight, and I just happen to be a little bit light on breadcrumbs. Is there any way to do it? And then narrowing down, that means that you're just sort of narrowing down specifically what you want so the answers don't become so vast. So let's just take a moment, and what I'm going to do is I want to share with you quickly here on my screen, and I'm going to do ChatGPT. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a question for you here. And in my question for ChatGPT, let me see if I can find the document quickly here. Bear with me. All right. Okay. So I'm going to put in a question, and instead of me writing it, it's going to be easier for me to just copy and paste it in. But I'm going to explain to you what I'm putting in here. So I'm saying act like a digital marketer. So that's the role. Okay, digital marketing expert. Write a monthly newsletter for our toddler room. Include some developmental elements, sensory, this, that, or the other. And then we are going to be singing over the next 4 weeks, 4 different songs a week. And then what we'd also like to do is discuss our issues with health checks, as well as organize into bullets, possibly make some recommendations for clip art. The goal, again, having a goal, is to inform parents as to the progress of last month and then the new activities this month. This will be sent in a PDF that will be attached to an email. So now I made this suggestion, and ChatGPT is now actually creating my newsletter for me. So it is writing a comprehensive newsletter. And as you can see here, it is for our toddler room for July. Dear parents, it goes into our talking about our new sensory stations. These are all things that I just wrote just to say in general terms. So it talks about those, and it also talks about a suggestion for some type of clip art to put here, as well as the songs and that we talked about. And then you have our health and safety reminders, our weekly activities that we're doing every week, just from what I just put in. But you know what? I forgot. Let's say, please provide the lyrics from a website link for the songs. So in the chat mode, what this is going to do is it's going to start taking a look at each one of these. And now what it is doing is it is going out there and it's finding the lyrics for each one of these songs. So now you can include the link in your email to your families so they can sing along with their child too. But that's how ChatGPT tends to work and how it's just one of the many different ways that we tend to look at it. So let's do a new share. All right, let's go back to our presentation. Excuse me for a moment, folks, and find my way back here. All right. And my apologies. I'm going to stop for 1 second. You have to see my face here. Bear with me. There we go. There we go. There we have it. And back to Zoom. You'll reshare. And here we are. Okay, great. So we talked about the different roles that we have here and how and why we use the different roles. Do we have any questions out there so far until as I continue to progress with overall? All right, so I'm going to assume that is no, but let's continue on. Oh wait, we do have a question. For ChatGPT, can you be able to copy and paste to an email? Rosa, you absolutely can. You can copy and paste what we just did. You would be able to easily just click over it, highlight it, and copy it. Matter of fact, ChatGPT has made it easier to do that. Now, when you do paste it, there are oftentimes pasting options. So you can have some of the formatting that comes with it, or to exclude the formatting out of it. So when you tend to paste, you tend to right click, and then it gives you a few options on how to paste. So just want to give you that hint, but absolutely you can do that. So you can quickly copy and paste any of the things that you just created, like you just saw for that newsletter. All right, so we answered that one. And thank you for that question, Rosa. Great question. All right, and let's move on.
Tony, we actually have another question in the chat about how AI can you offer courses online?
So if someone could define that a little bit more, if you can offer courses online for AI, there's many directions to go with that. And we're going to talk about how courses are developed, but if we could just have you further explain what that question is, and I will come back to it when I get that question. So thank you, Melissa. Okay, so now there are other things out there called programmable AI avatars and video. These are dominated by a few different companies that happen to be out there. The biggest one is Synthesia. Synthesia is really the leader of AI video generated, and we're going to go through an example of that in just a moment. You'll see these other entities here that have different AI type of avatars, anywhere from an avatar that's animated to someone who looks identical as you do. And that is what we're going to be talking about next. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this clip here, and we're going to listen to about 1.5 minutes. So I apologize if you have to listen to someone else other than me, but you probably enjoy that break. So let's go ahead and listen to this little clip of a reporter from the Wall Street Journal.
Today, we're going to create an avatar that looks and moves like me. We begin by smiling into the camera. I love to smile. Smiling's my favorite. And breathing gently for a short second. Is this what breathing looks like? I'm Joanna Stern, and I'm excited to host this video. No, I am the real Joanna.
Okay, so I cloned myself. Kinda.
Howdy.
Why? Well, the latest AI tools that generate text and images already make it hard to tell the difference between what's real and what's fake. What's coming next with AI-generated voice and video is going to blur the lines even more.
So I came up with a challenge. Can I replace myself with AI for the day?
Yes, I came up with 4 challenges to see if AI me could sub in for real me. So real me had more time for me things. Or at least that's how I wanted it to go.
Still a little creeped out that I'm looking at frozen Joanna.
Okay, let's do this.
Seems we take 2 calibration.
Before we get into the challenges, let's talk about my AI avatar, which was made by a startup called Synthesia.
I want to make my avatar.
At a professional studio in New York, the company recorded me doing a series of head movements.
I feel like I'm at the eye doctor.
Okay. And reading through a rather odd pre-written script.
Positive thinking will help you believe in yourself and fill you with self-esteem and confidence.
After that, I headed to an audio studio where I recorded another script for about an hour.
My name is Joanna Stern, and I hereby consent to this audio recording to create a custom voice.
The company took that all and used it as training data and ran it through their AI neural networks.
Hello, Joanna. You don't mind if I call you Joanna, do you?
Okay, so the voice isn't the best. A tool called 11 Labs produced something better after my producer Kenny uploaded 2 hours of my previous recordings.
I am the real Joanna.
I am the real Joanna.
I am the real Joanna.
Both Synthesia and 11 Labs work similarly. Type in anything and AI Joanna just says it right back.
Synthesia is aimed at companies that want to make internal videos. It charges at least $1,000 to create a custom avatar.
Creating a voice clone with 11 Labs is $5 a month.
Okay, so we have there, what we had a chance to see was some of the future of where we are going for AIs. Now, the challenge with that is you can start to think about is what we've already heard about are called deep fakes. So deep fakes are become very prevalent. I think some of you have seen some of them out there with like Tom Cruise on a show and it's not actually Tom Cruise. There's other things that can become very disconcerting about that when you think about with deep fakes that you could have world leaders who are talking about something that they never spoken of and they never talked about, but was put in through a deep fake that is using this technology that you just saw. So as we have one of the questions about the ethical concerns, we will be talking about that in a little bit here, because there are a number of ethical concerns that one leads up to alone. Let's move forward and talk just a little bit more about some of the other areas too. And in this—
Good morning, Amy.
Hold on one second.
What topic?
We'll get started on this one in a second. I'm using some technology here, so it'll tend to take a little bit of control. But these are some intelligent systems that really help on the area of coaching and training and development. You have entities like Coach Hub, Better Up, Immersion, Cultivate. These are ones that actually can create sort of a one-on-one coaching model. And I will give you an example of this one from Coach Hub right now.
Good morning, Amy.
What topic would you like to focus on in today's session?
Well, today I want to talk about what to do in case I have a toxic employee.
It's important to address toxic behavior in the workplace. How do you currently handle situations with toxic employees in your team?
Currently, we focus on building a very strong culture. We do that by having strong values and setting up clear expectations for our staff. We then try to measure them against those expectations and provide people with positive feedback whenever possible. But if there is a transgression against our code of conduct or the like, then we have to provide them feedback as to why they're not meeting expectations.
It sounds like you have a solid foundation in place with clear values and expectations. How do you typically address toxic behavior when it arises despite these measures?
What we'd like to do is take the employee out of the situation when it is occurring. Possibly, if they are in a room with children, have them replaced with another team member so we can bring them into a quiet area and have a discussion about actions or behaviors that occurred and why they do not align with what our expectations are, as well as get the employees' feedback of why they're demonstrating those behaviors.
It's important to address such behavior promptly and have a constructive discussion about it. How do you ensure that the feedback session is productive and leads to positive changes in behavior?
So as you can see with this technology here, this is a automated AI coaching tool that you can see can offer value in working with individuals on different type of topics. This one I happen to bring up is a very common topic that we have in our industry, whether it be a director, an owner, possibly even another teacher, of how to work in a difficult situation. And what it does is, you notice it's not giving me a ton of recommendations and telling me what to do, is it's having me walk through it, and then it's reinforcing the positives as well as giving me direction as to where to go when I am unaware of how I should handle the situations. So this technology is developing fast and furiously out there to become available for a lot of people. And quite oftentimes a lot of us immediately want to resist and say, hey, that needs to be person to person. But in some situations here, you could see where this could be very helpful for different individuals who are engaging with consistent issues, especially if the ownership or whoever deploys this has the ability to create some ethical boundaries associated with how things are answered, or refers to people, such as if I asked a question as, I would like to fire that person right now, and they would say, well, you should really refer back to your leadership, ownership, or your employee manuals or the like. So this technology is all about it today and is continuing to grow quick and fast. So let's talk about a few other technologies here. What we have are companies like Writer, ClickUp, Otter AI. A lot of people have seen when you've been on a Zoom call and Otter has popped its way onto a Zoom call. And that has been something that has been really about just, copying the entire call, translating the entire call, creating chapters to an entire Zoom call, and the like. Because of time, I'm going to continue to move forward. We have even robotics now. There are robotics. Some of these things have been deployed. A lot of these are actually coming out of Asia mainly, and there are some that have been really focused on the childcare industry about how to leverage robotics in a way that a child can engage. Some of these things relatively scary, honestly, when I tell you, when you look at some of these, and they do tend to give you a bit of a concern at their first generation, where it looks like you're trying to have a robot instruct a child or be with a child. That's where I think we start to have several ethical concerns. With the ones that you see here on the top, even though we don't have the time to display some of these today, these are where a child can just engage and basically work on an iPad, and this robotic tends to happen to provide some guidance and support. So it is not instructing, it's basically interacting with the child depending on how the child interacts with it. This actual tool over here really is a companion. This will follow you around and actually be like a rolling, for lack of a better term, cooler for you, or for a child, a rolling backpack in the future, where the child does not have to carry a backpack, and this will just follow the child anywhere it goes with any of the things that it possibly needs. So there's a lot of technology that is up and coming that we do want to probably have some thoughts and considerations for when it comes to the classroom. And I'm going to move away from a few of these videos just because of our sake of time. So in the childcare landscape, there are a few different tools that are out there today to take a look at. And one of them happens to be Canva. Canva is relatively popular out there. It is a development of a very easy to use, easy, friendly use development tool for creating things similar to like a PowerPoint or presentations or newsletters or the like. And you can oftentimes get a scaled down version of Canva, or you can do a paid version of it, but that's also using AI today. So you can start to create presentations newsletters and the like, where it will start to fill in some of the gaps for you. You have obviously ChatGPT, which we've talked about down here. And then over here, Clay. Clay was recently purchased by Kangaroo Time, but Clay is a tool that does allow you to take advantage of AI. And what it does is it really creates prompting. So similar to like what you saw where I had to prompt a response for creating a newsletter, it does that around activities and things. So if I just share that with you briefly here, this is over in Clay, and you can easily create like weekly plans in here. Again, these are things that there are some paid for functions in here and non-paid for functions, but this is where you can create weekly plans for the classroom. You can create activities for the classroom. You can have a coach, and you can create some other information as needed. This is sort of on its onset. You can look at what is the kind of theme, what is the range, what is the educational methodology, whether you're like a Montessori or a Reggio program, faith-based possibly, and then it can create a weekly plan. So to help simplify your implementation of curriculum. Now, what we also have, and we go back to our presentation, is something called AskRegi. AskRegi.ai is actually a tool that inspired Care 360. And no, I didn't do this just to introduce AskRegi to all of you, but it is an AI solution. It's one of the reasons that we feel that we're sort of leading the field in AI is because we are working with technology now with AI to really help solve some of the biggest conundrums out there. What AskRegi happens to be is an AI solution, excuse me here. AskRegi is an AI solution today, and it is in a beta form. And if you who are on this call would like to participate in this, Sarah will put out a link for you to participate in the beta for AskRegi. So what AskRegi is no charge. It allows you to work directly with your state's regulations to ask relatively simple questions. For obviously, our state regs can be rather complex, difficult to get to answers quickly and get the results we're looking for without having to call your licensor and have them come the next day and give you a violation because a garbage can top is no longer on a garbage can and you have a hazardous waste in your childcare center. So AskRegi has been developed predominantly at first to manage your state regulations. And we're going to do an example of that. So for instance, when we talked about this, like I was talking with Gigi, a friend of mine, and she said that compliance is really the biggest challenge that she sees for a lot of her schools, especially for new owners and operators who come in. When we talk to people like Kim Cross, who's over at Big Blue Marble, she's looking at policies and procedures that are very difficult and challenging to deal with. Like Ricardo over at Learning, he's looking at learning and development over at Endeavor Schools, and that recruiting and getting people ramped up are significantly challenging. That's one of the areas where we really created to focus where AskRegi is going to work on. So what AskRegi is, it's a solution that does state and federal regulations. It also in the near future is going to be able to work with your own company content to give you answers simply by attaching your own company content there. So instead of scouring your own company content, it'll provide you immediate answers, policies, procedures, processes. You'll be able to create training on demand or on the job. So let me give you just a really quick example of how it is to work with AskRegi. All right, so with that said, I am going to make a quick share again. And it should only take a couple minutes, and you should be able to see the screen with AskRegi. And here you have our screen with AskRegi. And what you will notice is when we are working with AskRegi here, it's very simple. You would choose your state. So you have all the different states here, but you also have a federal document. So any of your CA-CFP information would be here, but I'm going to choose New York State for now. And then I can ask any questions. So I'm going to just quickly ask, all right, let's say, for instance, a very simple question. What steps do I need to take upon termination of a director. So I'm going to just paste that in here for the sake of time. Okay. So AskRegi is not an LLM. It is what's called LLM agnostic. It does use LLMs out there, but it works only with the data that has been set up for a specific database. So for instance, AskRegi will tell you specifically in New York State what you need to do. Notify the office immediately, submit the names, ensure the proposed new director, exactly what you have to do. We got that in seconds instead of having to look up the regs. Also, you'll notice that it gives you the different pages within the state regs, so you can directly go to right where the requirements are as to what you need to do if there are specific changes that are going on in your school, and it lets you bring you right to where the answers came from. But because it's not a search engine like Google, it is not going to just have a relevance based on the word it found. This is actually constructing an answer. So that's why there's multiple reference pages here. We also look for feedback, whether it was a very positive interaction or we're trying to have the system learn because it is working on a neural network itself. So it could answer. You say that the answer was not accurate. It was answered partially, not enough, or reference not accurate. But in this case, it was answered properly. So we give it a positive feedback, and that allows us to ask another question. So I'm going to ask it more of a detailed question this time. And what I'd like to do is I want to create a small learning course. I want to create a training. And so write a training outline for health checks. And I'd like to include 3 lessons with overall objectives. And so I put this in here. And what AskRegi is doing is it's now going to the state regs. It is coming back. And now what it is doing, it's looking to construct for us a comprehensive training, which it just did. So it created a training outline. So now if I have a staff meeting tonight, I actually have a training I could bring my entire team through about health checks in the state of New York. Again, as I said, if you want to put a request out there, if Sarah, you could put just in general that in the chat for if anybody wants to be a beta tester. Again, there is no cost. We just want more participation. We currently have 500 people beta testing AskRegi. This is because the more people who use it and try to use it, that feedback helps educate and become better. So again, you have the answer of where the training is here. You can, like Rose asked earlier, if I wanted to, I could copy this information. I could click copy, and then I could go ahead and paste this into a PowerPoint presentation or a Word document alike. Again, I have down here the different reference pages that bring me directly to it. I have the feedback rating. Confidence response means that it's not considered a perfect answer, but what it means is for the question I asked, it felt like it had about 95% accuracy in how it was answering. And then down here, it asks questions in different ways with different prompts to get you there. So with that said, that is AskRegi. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our presentation here and look to finish it up because we only have a few minutes left here. We're a little bit over time, but I appreciate everybody's patience on that. So let me bear with me a moment. Okay. And as we said, we're going to be getting into company content where AskRegi will be applied to your own company content, policy, procedures, all types of things, and then create rapid training on demand, create job aids on demand. So let's talk a little bit about child security, within our world. So there's something that's called COPA. COPA is Compliance for Childcare Safety within AI. This is something that is a federal mandate that really talks about what can be collected. So you must obtain parental consent before collecting children's data. So if you are talking to a company, let's say one of the video companies out there, and they're saying, hey, we can do face recognition video check-in. To do that, you would have to have all of your families, all of your parents sign off that their child would be able to undergo that their information would be able to be documented. And it needs to be online policies very specific to the way you're using the AI, how you're using the AI, or there's very large federal fines if not. It also can limit the data collection to reasonability. So what this means, the fact that you're collecting, for instance, in the situation I gave earlier about a child's image, it would have to be very clear as to what that information is used for. Is it shared with any other entity, and how that information is being sent? And then it has some very strong measures currently today and robust measures about how it is to be implemented and overall tracked. Now, the fact is, COPA has been out prior to this, and it wasn't generally created for AI to start with, but it has been adopted for AI. But there is going to be more and more legislation that is coming to Congress soon enough to look at how to govern with AI for the ethics of it. Because at the end of the day, simply, I don't think any of us are looking for AI to teach our children. We're not looking for AI to take the place of a teacher, but we are looking for AI to support an administrator or even teachers in the way that they're doing their work so they can spend more time with a child or with children. And so, business security with AI, it is very important to look at your cybersecurity. There will be an increase possibly of data breaches because of AI's ability to mimic other systems, other data systems. There's obviously challenges with misuse of AI for surveillance and monitoring. So there needs to be opportunities for those who you're applying AI to, that they have opportunities to opt in or opt out. There is also issues for perpetuation of biases or discrimination. So you will have to consider ongoing that if you are working with, adopting, adapting, applying AI, that you may need to do audits on occasion on looking at biases and discrimination in the kind of AI solutions you're looking at. If they're giving you imagery back that is not accurate, if they're giving you data that comes back that is, maybe it's biased to one side or another, elements of that nature. And then, of course, what we just talked about with COPA. COPA is the last issue there. So with that said, there are a bunch of pros and cons. We have run out a little bit of time, but obviously the pros, there's improved safety, convenience, peace of mind, automated tasks, personalized learning. But the cons are also lack of human interaction, dependency on technology, that privacy and security concerns, and the biases, inaccuracy, and also cost. AI is likely not going to go the way of Terminator 2 within the next year or two. Literally, the time to get to something actually becoming sentient is considered to be at least 10 to 15 years off. But there are definitely kind of concerns that are out there and cautions of AI. Again, you're looking at the fact that AI does not lack, it doesn't have consciousness, it doesn't have emotion, it doesn't have common sense reasoning when it is looking at situations. It is certainly infallible. The information that it gets put into it is similar to the garbage in, garbage out. It can be biased, what have you. Also, it lacks human judgment. So where it is trying to get better, like Claude is trying to do, is be ethically, legally, and societal understanding and conditionally sound for those situations on judgment. That is a very difficult thing for AI to get its arms around at this point in time, and still isn't doing excellent in that area. And then it's strong importance to have accountability, fairness, and trustworthiness. OpenAI, the open came from that it was supposed to be an open architecture for when it was created, that everybody was going to have it. Well, they started seeing profits, and OpenAI is actually a closed system now. So that doesn't sometimes lend itself to the transparency that we would hope for some of the largest companies out there. And the autonomy, the human oversight, the safety, the reliability is all elements of what we're going to have to keep on consistently looking at for AI. There is, again, looking at legislation that is coming in the coming years here about protecting children from social media, from sexual abuse, use of it in political advertising, the deep fakes, and using AI as a hiring, firing, and performance management that might have biases in there that could really hurt and be disruptive to our workforce. So with that, again, I just wanted to sort of rushing here because we ran about 10 minutes over, but hopefully you found that this presentation was helpful for you. And this was something that there was value on. Please let us know in the comments if there's anything similar to this or derivatives of this you would like to learn about. We'd be more than happy to present them to you or provide them to you. And we want to thank you greatly for taking the time. We will be giving a $100 gift card away for those of you who have stayed. We have a number of people who are still with us, and we are giving you a Becker's gift card for one of those people. So I'm going to hand that off to Sarah, and she's going to be reaching out to you or have Becker's reach out to you with that award. So I want to thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Our next event is on July 10th, where we are going to have Evelyn Knight join us, and she's going to be talking about change your relationship with money and breaking through limited benefits. So look forward to that. Put that on your calendar for July 10th. And we have Ryan Whitaker. He is our lucky winner. So he has won the gift card. So congratulations, Ryan. And if you want to get a hold of Inspire Care 360 about what we're up to, here's our information. I'd like to thank everybody very much. Take care now, everybody, and have an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.